Hello everybody, today we're going to make this most simple landscape ever. So what I have is a small house, a foreground, and a background. So we have a sky, mountains, and the plains or fields. So this made me think about a farm in a way. With the sun rising, it would not be 8 or 9 o'clock even. And then we'll do this in a really simple way. You can do this with crayons, markers, and I'm going to use watercolors also, but I've started with markers. The part I want you to really see here is my picture is not even half, and the horizon line, that's the line that goes back and forth that separates the land from the sky usually. In this case, there's a second horizon line that's bumpy, and that's the hills behind it. And I've done those purple so you can see them. So I want to first blend my lightest colors, and I'm using a thick brush, and I'm blending these together. And look, I'm pulling this green in lines, and that's pretty cool. Now I can go on here because yellow and green get along great. But I don't want to go from dark green into this yellow again. I'll wash out before I hit that. But then this gives us a place to land into the picture. I'm just showing you a super simple way to make a landscape today. It's fun, it's easy. Also, I might put some more of this blue, well I am, see me do it, putting it into the shines. Now I saw this piece at an art show for a school, and kids made versions of it with clay. They drew this on a piece of clay, and it was really cool. I wanted to share this idea with you. I thought it was the most simple way to make a landscape. And so since my paper got wet, it's going to buckle a bit, but you're in control. You brush it down, make it do what it's supposed to. Blue gets along with purple really well too. So I'm pulling this. Look at the direction of the lines side to side with this. Same with the sky, same with the ground, because I don't want it to go up and down. I don't want it to look like a storm. You know, the direction of your marks changes the way the picture works because it's a mark. Now, I want to pick this up and pull this through here, that's fine. And then I have most of this. What would be cool is to put a little bit of sunlight up here. And that's about it. I'm going to let this one dry for a few minutes, put it to the side. Let's start a brand new one. See, I had a spot there. Whoa, let me get that. This is interesting. I can brush that out. I can also draw back into it. And there, it's gone like magic. So that's a good start for my 2-point landscape. I have an entryway, I have farms and plains, I have hills, I have sky, a little bit of sun. I'm going to play with how the light is coming out of the sun in the next piece. I'm planning it. I'm setting this to the side to dry right now. So let's start out with our horizon line. We said it was not even halfway. Here's halfway, about 1/3. So there's my horizon line. Now, in this piece, I'm putting the sky here. I'm playing with how the light comes down in rays. And then I know that the little house was almost a castle shape. It was over here. And then we had all these lines that went different ways. And I thought this was kind of neat. So let's try this. The sky in this piece was actually purple. And then they had sun coming in, so no promises. Let's try it. I know that the ground was yellow and green. So I'm pulling this yellow. And again, this is pretty wet, so my paper will probably buckle and fidget, and I'll move it. So I'm filling this in green, and then skipping this one and going green again. You scoot this up so you can see it even better. A little darker as we're closer to it. That looks cool. Picking up a little bit of vivid yellow, greenish there, putting it there. And then, so we have our land. And I want to start working on the sky now. The sun was orange in this painting that I saw. And I want it to be vivid, so I've got to get it wet and pick it up. And it's not so bright. Going to play with this just a bit and see what happens. I want you to start playing with landscapes where the viewer enters into the picture. So we know that this is the foreground. It's the ground before you. You walk into the picture here with your eyes. And then this is the background. This is the sun and the sky. And then they'll all have hills and mountains in here also. So I can take a green, and those are those hills, and I colored over the house. Probably not a great idea. I should have left it there. I might want to change this now, because I did. I changed it. I have to make a decision. I have to go, what am I going to do? Maybe this house is going to be darker, and I will need to figure that out. And I wanted more blue in the sky. And so I'm putting that in the dry part. I'm not hitting the wet part where I hit it with the brush. Talking about the sun shining on the land with this piece. And I just want you to do a horizon line. Show me the difference between sky and earth. Show me where it sits. We have some kind of perspective. That means we're looking at it in a certain direction. And so practice drawing, painting, making landscapes. And they're pretty fun. Now I can get a lot darker with this, and it will pump up the visual interest, because if it's light and all the same, it's not always exciting. Just to be honest with you. Oh. I'm gonna come back to this. So I've let my landscape dry a little bit. I've taught a class, had some fun, come back to it, and it's dry. It's a little wrinkly, and my other one's dry also. But now I can really start working on them. Something about working with water and paint and other materials, you do want to let things dry so that they're where you want them to be and you can work with them again. If you start trying to draw into a wet paper, you know, you can tear it. So you want to think about that as you're making more and more art. I'm drawing into this sun. Now, I've left the lines there so that you could see the pencil lines and everything, but you know, usually I wouldn't leave those there. If it was just my stuff, I would just paint it. But this is good practice for us. And now I'm showing the sun shining its rays onto the world, or the farm in this case. And it's looking kind of cool. It almost looks like a flag, but at the same time, it does look like a sunset. And maybe I want a warm line here and here, just for fun. I'm just playing with this landscape right now. Draw back into this to put more yellow, and look, I'm going side to side with it, side to side. Maybe I want it darker here at the foreground so it looks more like we can walk into this picture. And there I'm going side to side with that horizon line. And now we're going to paint this, and then I think let's start another one real quick, just so you get the gist of it. The more I practice this, anything, I get better at it, so maybe you'll find that also. I'm putting some yellow into here. Usually I would start with the yellow, but I just thought about this, and I'm thinking I want it to be really bright and warm right here, not cold and white or blue or anything there. I want it bright. We're making a bright landscape about the sun doing its job. Kind of cool. And this makes me think of warm summer days that we're getting towards. We're coming out of the winter. And this is more timely about what's going on. So, picking up a small brush, I'm going to get it wet and kind of park that brush and then blend these together, kind of making small circles as I go. And I need just enough water, but not too much. Blending that together again. And these watercolor, or Crayola markers work really good for watercoloring. Something I've discovered more of since the coronavirus and teaching from home, and was playing with my materials more. I'm discovering some things. So I'm blending this color in. I'm trying not to let that yellow and blue mix too much, because you know that makes a whole other color, a secondary called green. But we know that. And we can be careful to try to keep our parts separate as much as possible. If I wanted to, I could go back into this and redraw it, or mix my marker again, or add color. And it's kind of fun to play with. And so hopefully you're going to be successful and have fun making your own landscape. This is calling it the most simple landscape ever. We've got a foreground, we've got a background, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors. Yellow, green, orange, blue. Yeah, I think that's all we've got. So, we're starting to get more descript and darker as we come forward in the piece. It's darker up here. I want it to look that way. And then maybe it kind of gets faded back here, and that's fine. I washed out my brush and I'm going into the yellow now. That was really light. And that green can kind of blend with it, especially on one side. But then here, the part that has the orange, I want to get that wet and then blend it this way. So that makes that kind of raise up a little bit. Think about these things, how it changes your work. Those colors, those directions, those lines as we go. Now this part looks unfinished, so I'm bringing this over, and that's it. And there you have another very simple landscape. So let's put this one to the side and return to our first one. We had an orange sun here, so I can draw back into this with a marker now that this is dry. And I just want to draw these diagonal lines. Remember, those are slanted lines. And I'm drawing it straight out. I'm just playing with this. I don't know how it's going to look. I have not done this one before, but I wanted to try it. Why not? There we go. So we have that house. We have these hills. Let's take a big brush and just sweep that out. And it changes the sky a little bit. So it looks really warm. And if this is not what you wanted, what would you do to change it? Would you not have blue in the sky? Would it just be orange? It's kind of neat to see those colors blend. And then you could draw back into it if you wanted to. Putting some of this warmth down here. These bits that you see, that's actually paper that's kind of chewed up. Picking up some green from my watercolor and put this back in, if it's dark. So I'm going to add some blue with that. Blue-green is darker than just green. And then put that in that foreground. That looks kind of cool. So we have our little house. And the one I saw that my daughter did was black. So usually I don't do a lot of black in a landscape, but this house, it was right back there. on it look kind of crazy, but that's one way to do it. I don't want to add too much more black to this, but I've got blended color. I've got a landscape. It looks like Edward Munch's The Scream to me in the sky, but then here's my other one with the sun's rays. All I'm wanting is a horizon line, a sky, a ground, maybe hills in the background. So you have a 2-point perspective. There are diagonal lines in the sky and in the land. There are wavy, bumpy lines, curved lines. There are straight, horizontal, and diagonal lines. Hope you've enjoyed making a simple landscape. Show me what you made. Thank you, boys and girls.